Dear teacher trainees, today I'm coming before you to present a new lesson entitled Instructional Strategies. You see, one of the most important duty of a school teacher is to carry out teaching activity and to make the entire process of teaching effective so that the student communities learn a lesson effectively, meaningfully, lively, and effectively. So therefore, to make the entire process of teaching effective, the subject teacher is supposed to employ certain instructional strategies, right? Uh, so here, instructional strategies refers to a generalized plan for a lesson. An instructional strategy explains the meaning of a lesson. It establishes relationship between teaching and learning. It is, after all, an art in the science of conducting educational instruction. Instructional strategy is essential component of curricular cycle, and last but not the least, it includes broad methods of instruction. Broadly speaking, instructional strategies can be divided into two types. The first one is autocratic, and another one is democratic. So autocratic strategies are traditional teaching strategies. These are content-centered and teacher-centered. While using these strategies, the teacher's place is primary and the pupil is secondary. The teacher determines the content himself by considering himself an idle and suppressing pupils' interests, attitudes, capabilities, abilities, and needs. So knowledge is imposed forcibly from outside in the minds of the pupils. Teachers may be active, but all the pupils remain passive audience. Pupils simply go on obeying teachers in correct instruction, and they do not have any freedom for their expressions. So it emphasizes mental development and achieves cognitive objectives only, and the group development is not cared for all at all. Democratic strategies, on the other hand, are child-centered instructional strategies where the pupils determine the content, pupils' place is primary, and that of teachers is secondary. There is maximum interaction between the pupils and the teachers. Pupils' constructive capabilities are developed in accordance to their interests, attitudes, capabilities, abilities, needs, and mental level. So such strategies are objective and Chinese pupils like there is they gain maximum advantages. It emphasizes maximum social development in terms of assignment, brainstorming, discussion, discovery, heurism, independent study, project, review, role-playing, sensitivity, tutorial groups, etc. etc. So from this pyramidal diagram, it is easily learned that people generally remember up to 10% of what they read, 20% of what they hear, 30% of what they say, 50% of what they see and hear. And up to this level, learners can define, list, describe, explain, demonstrate, apply, and practice. And this level is basically known as passive learning. But above this level, there is another level which is much desirable, and this is known as active learning. Uh, Here, at this level, learners can remember up to 70% of what they say and write, up to 90% of what they do. And through active learning, learners can analyze, define, create, and evaluate. So this is the process how the impact of learning shifts through different learning styles. Well, with the objective to make the teaching process effective, every subject teacher is supposed to follow certain rules and the regulations of teaching, and these are technically known as maxims of teachings. So maxims of teachings are, after all, the mantras of teaching, right? The maxims of teaching are nothing but the basic principles of teaching. They are very helpful in obtaining the active involvement and the participation of the learners in the teaching learning process. They quicken the interest of the learners and motivate them to learn. They make learning effective, inspirational, interesting, and meaningful. So they keep the students attentive to the teaching learning process. Ego teachers should be quite familiar with well-known maxims of methodical procedure to be able to make the process of learning easier to pupils. The first maxim, I mean, the first principle that is supposed to be followed is proceed from known to unknown. The most natural and the simple way of teaching relation is to proceed from something that the students already know to those facts which they do not know. Since all knowledge serves as a book on which the new can be hanged, what is already known to the students is of great use to the students. So, in order to accept the new knowledge, the teacher must try to win over some part of the child's past experience. The teacher is to proceed step by step to connect the new matter to the old one, as new knowledge cannot be grasped in the background. Another maxim is simple to complex. A process from simple to complex. So the word simple and the complex are to be seen from the point of view of the child and not that of an adult, right? So we would be curbing the interest and the initiative of the children by presenting them complex problems before the simpler ones are presented. The point is that the simple tasks or topic which are easier to understand must be taught first, and the complex one can follow later on. In fact, while teaching a lesson of social studies, the teacher should begin with the most striking and prominent pieces of a topic and then continue to add further details, right? The third maxim is proceed from easy to difficult. By keeping in view the standard of the students, lessons should be graduated in order of ease of understanding. So this helps in sustaining the interest of the students in determining what is easy and what is difficult. We have to take into account the psychological makeup of the child. Fourth one is proceed from concrete to abstract. A child's imagination is greatly aided by a concrete material. Children in the beginning cannot think in abstractions. Small children learn first from things which they can see and handle. Things first and words after is common saying. So it is true, a child understands a thing with the help of a model, and a clear idea can be developed through actual visits. Am I right? The fifth maxim to be followed to make the teaching effective is proceed from indefinite to definite. So ideas of syndrome in the initial stages are indefinite, incoherent, and very vague. These ideas are to be made definite, clear, precise, and systematic. Effective teaching necessitates uh, that every word and idea, definition, and concept presented should stand out clearly in the child's mind as a picture. So, for classifying ideas, adequate use must be made of actual objects, diagrams, pictures, charts, graphs, analogies, comparisons, etc. Every possible effort should be made to make the children interested in the lesson as well as to clarify ideas and make them definite. Sixth maxim to be followed is proceed from particular to general. Before giving principles and rules, particular examples should be presented. As a matter of fact, a study of particular facts should lead the children themselves to frame general rules, and these rules of arithmetic, of grammar, of physical geography, and almost of all sciences are based on the principle of proceeding from particular instances to general rules. Seventh one is proceed from empirical to rational. Observation and the first-hand experience are the basis of empirical knowledge. Rational knowledge implies a bit of extraction and the argumentative approach. The general feeling is that the child first of all experiences knowledge in his day-to-day life, and after that he fills the rational basis. It is always better to begin with what the pupils see, feel, and experience than with what they can generalize, explain, and argue. Next principle is proceed from psychological to logical. Uh, Friends, while logical approach is concerned with the arguments of the subject matter, psychological approach looks at the child's interests, niche, mental makeup, and subject logical. When we treat the subject logically, we are usually thinking of it from our own point of view and not from the point of view of the child. In psychological approach, we proceed from the concrete to the abstract one, from simple to the complex, and from known to unknown. And the next maxim to be followed is to proceed from whole to parts. Whole is more meaningful to the child than the parts of the whole. Yes, the whole approach is generally better than part learning because the material to be learned makes sense and its parts can be seen by the learner is interrelated. The learner sees a relationship between the central idea of the material to be learned. The whole unit or patches for slow learners should be smaller than the whole for the last learners. Uh, Next is proceed from near to far. A child learns well in the surroundings in which he resides, so he should be first acquainted with his immediate environment. Gradually, he may be taught about things which are away from his immediate environment. In a geography lesson, we start from the local geography and then take up the tehsils, district level, state level, the country, and the world gradually. Next maxim is to proceed from analysis to synthesis. Analysis means breaking a problem into convenient parts, and the synthesis means grouping of these separated parts into one complete whole. A complex problem can be made simple and easy by dividing into different units. Last but one maxim to be followed is process from actual to representative. When actual representatives are shown to children, they learn easily and retain them in their minds for a long time. This is especially suitable for younger children. Representative objects in the form of pictures, models, etc. should be used for the grown-ups. And last but not the least, to proceed from inductive to deductive. This maxim includes almost all the maxims stated above, and in this approach, we start from particular examples and establish general rules through the active participation of the learners. However, in the deductive approach, we assume a definition, a general rule or formula, and apply it to particular examples. Both deductive and inductive approaches have their own importance, but the latter is considered a better one. Yes, technically, uh, the methods of teaching can be grouped into seven types. This include inspirational methods, expository methods, natural learning methods, individualized methods, encounter methods, discovery methods, and the group methods. So here I won't touch upon these uh, uh, sevenfold classification of teaching methods in detail. So I will discuss this later on. Now, let me tell you some important informations about the techniques of teaching. So techniques are very important when we talk about teaching. Uh, in the process of teaching social studies, in particular, the teacher has to resort to the use of certain techniques, devices, and maxims to be able to facilitate and promote learning. Uh, Techniques means the method of performance manipulation, especially everything concerned with the mechanical part of an artistic performance. So these are connected with oral teaching, a time-honored method of imparting knowledge to pupils. Narration, explanation, and the description are the techniques most commonly used techniques of teaching. Let me tell you some more informations about the four different types of techniques of teaching. So let me start with narration. Well, narration refers to telling stories, giving accounts of events to others. It is an art which every teacher of social sciences should learn, as he is often to narrate or tell a story, give accounts of facts, or to sketch and recount some happenings. Storytelling is a form of narration, and it can be used in the context of social science, contained in an interesting manner to carry the message home. The purpose of narration is to present a clear, vivid, interesting, and ordered sequence of events to the pupils. So, do you understand my points? Another important type of techniques of teaching is nothing but description. Description is similar to narration. So it is the act of representing a thing by words, accounts of the properties or appearance of something. In other words, it is the portrayal in words of a person, object, thing, or events. The purpose is to give a mental picture of the same to the pupils. As in narration, the language used in description should be sufficiently vivid and interesting to hold central's attention. Words chosen should also be exact and correct so that only the correct things or processes are visualized or mentally perceived. And the use of homely illustrations such as metaphors and similes help to vividly vivify the descriptions as much as narrations. Third, we have explanation is another form of technique of teaching. Explanation is, after all, another technique of oral teaching, and its main objective is to enable children to take an intelligent interest in the proceedings, to grasp the purpose of what is being done, and to develop their understanding of how to do it. It forms a kind of bridge between telling and revealing knowledge to the learners, and it involves a number of other techniques as well as narration and description. Throughout the process, the teacher must keep in close touch with the minds of his pupils, suggesting lines of thoughts, questioning them, assuming their questions, setting them or practical work, examining the results, obtaining their questions, setting them on practical work, examining the results, obtained, discussing significant problems, etc. So social science teacher need to point out things, to describe or to narrate or make use of illustrations, both verbal or non-verbal audiovisual aids for proper explanation. He is to see that the significant relationships between the facts, situations, and activities which are involved in any experience are perceived and appreciated by pupils. So, in teaching social science lessons, facts have to be brought home to the pupils through explanation so as to increase the learner's insight or understanding. And lastly, we have exposition. So exposition is an elaborate form of explanation, I should say, if I'm not mistaken. To expose means to open, to exhibit, to display, to disclose, or to subject to light. So therefore, exposition is more than verbal explanation. The problem is exhibited to the pupils through verbal explanation as well as objective display, and the latter is more significant in the process of making a thing clear, right? Often the cooperation of pupils is also sought in exposing the details. The main action is by the teacher, but the children are also active in the process. They gather data and they test the hypothesis. It involves physical activity also. This device is more analytical, and to make this device effective, the sequence should be logical in higher classes but psychological in low ones. Teachers should proceed slowly and language should be simple. Illustration may be used when needed. The exposition should be made interesting and vivid. Age, capabilities, and the interests of learners should also be kept in view. Generals must cooperate in this device. Recapitulations is necessary to make the device effective, and the aim must be stated clearly to start with. Another important component of the techniques of teaching is nothing but devices of teaching. So these are certain external forms or modes which the instruction may from time to time assume. So they are device or design, say questioning, answering, illustration, homework, the use of library and textbooks, giving notes, assignments, conducting supervised study, etc. are the most important among the different modes of the presentation, and these devices or modes of presentation and the teaching are used to foster the development of knowledge and the attitudes among our pupils. So a brief discussion of the various devices is presented here. Let me start with questioning to begin with. So questioning is the most important device of teaching social science and plays a very important part in teaching, learning, and testing. The success and the efficiency of teaching depends more on the skill and the judgment with which the teacher puts questions. So for the child too, questioning is a natural and enjoyable means of intellectual and social growth. In fact, the minds of the learner and the teacher can be brought into close touch, and the learners can be led to creative effort through this device. So the main objective of questioning include to find out what the child knows and what he doesn't know, to keep him alert and attentive, to know whether he is following the lesson or not, to revise the lesson and to fix it clearly in the minds of the child, and lastly, to direct and encourage pupils and thus stimulate curiosity. Second important device that can be used effectively in the teaching process is answering. So how much the pupils know will be reflected in their answers, right? Lots of text, insight, and efforts is required for dealing with the pupils' answers. Good answers depend a great deal upon the kind of questions that are put to the students. Good answers are exact and accurate in substance as well as in language. They are complete, clear, concise, and simple in language. Good answers are thoughtful and are the result of mental activity on the pupil's part. They ought to be audible to the whole class and should be given in a natural and confident manner. All the correct answers should be accepted, should be welcomed and appreciated, but all wrong answers should be rejected but without ridicule. Right? Uh, Third important device that can be used in a classroom situation while teaching is the use of illustrations. Uh, Illustrations means the employment of those teaching aids which will make the ideas clear to the pupils and help them to acquire correct knowledge. As an important device of teaching, they help in simplifying matter and giving vividness to explanations, they stimulate interest and excited curiosity in learning, introduce variety in the lesson and secure better attention, lessen the intellectual tension, lighten the knowledge load and effect economy by proper associations. Both the verbal and the non-verbal illustrations can be used, but the relative importance of these two types depends upon the nature of the subject and the level of pupils' development. Textbooks can also be used as a device of teaching. Uh, Sometimes a true textbook is one especially prepared for the use of pupils and the teacher in a school or a class, presenting a course of study in a single subject or closely related subjects. So it is manual of instruction containing a presentation of the principles of the subject used as a basis for instruction. It is prepared by the experts in the field and equipped with the usual teaching devices. It is a learning instrument usually employed to support a program of instruction. It is printed, it is non-consumable, it is hardbound, serves as about instructional purpose, and it is placed in the hands of the learner. The purpose of textbook is to realize the goal of education at large and its function is very wide. In fact, good textbook stimulates the pupil's interest and helps the teacher considerably in his work. And as a matter of fact, all teaching methods are based on textbooks, so taking textbook as a medium would be justified. The textbook has become so very an important method in India, where most of the teachers lack the required training in the methods and the techniques of teaching social studies. So we must be careful in selecting textbook and handling them properly. But it is not advisable to use textbooks as it is for instructional purposes. Another important device is giving homework. This device can prove helpful in teaching social studies to the students of secondary and higher secondary classes. It gives opportunity to pupils to plan and perform their work independent of the guidance and help of the teacher. It improves the ability of pupils. It stimulates voluntary effort to follow up the study of topics or units that appeal to his interests and accustoms him to revise and consolidate the work done in the school. Homework may take many forms, essays, detailed notes by supplementing class notes with brief notes from or reference to texts and other standard books, as well as projects. If homework is carefully organized, intelligently assigned, properly understood, and regularly checked, it is invaluable in the teaching of social science lessons. And the side by side, uh, library can also be used as a device. Let me tell you, the provision of library with required books and non-book materials is utmost necessity for proper teaching and learning. The main objective of social science library include to create interest in the subject, to stimulate the student's mind, to develop critical attitude and a capacity for independent judgment, to cultivate a taste for extra reading, and to acquaint with the various forms in which social science can be had. Library resources may include book resources, the textbooks, unit booklets, library materials, reference materials, non-book resources, which include periodicals, pamphlets, and newspapers. Not only that, teacher can also give notes to students as a device, so, wherever possible. Notes taking and the notes making as a means of study are useful in education and later in life. So it provides a permanent record and effort easy reference. However, dictation of notes is not desirable practice, of course, but there is no harm if quotations and some of the definitions are dictated. Teacher's guidance to the pupils in the art of notes taking is essential right from the early classes. Preparation of notes should be a work of the students, and the teachers should take the notes prepared by pupils. Last but not the least, assignment can be given to the students from time to time and wherever possible. It is a very useful device of teaching social sciences, particularly in the secondary, higher secondary stage and above. Some significant topics or subtopics is assigned to the pupils for preparation, for study, for revision, and for some remedial work. Pupils are usually required to prepare the assignments in writing as it helps in organizing knowledge assimilation of facts and better preparation for examinations. So social science teachers can use four types of assignments like preparatory assignment, study assignment, revisional assignment, and remedial assignments. So while using assignments, the social science teachers should bear in mind the following points. Number one, assignments should motivate pupils' effort. Assignments should be related to purpose. Assignments should challenge, not threaten. Assignments should provide for individual differences. Assignments should be cooperatively made. And lastly, assignment requires serious consideration and thoughtful planning. And the last devices which are listed here is nothing but supervised study. Supervised study is another useful device of teaching social studies where the pupils work at their desks on the assignments given to them. The teacher supervises them. Teachers used to direct and assist them when they meet any difficulty. Supervised study is a sort of directed study procedure. Through this device, the teacher gets the opportunity of observing the pupils from a close quarter and the pupils are paid individual attention. The device encourages democratic human relations and materials like books, reference books, charts, maps, etc. And this can be used more effectively. The device helps in developing better pupil-teacher relations. It helps in establishing habits of critical thinking and discrimination, in evaluating ideas, and an objective investigation of facts on parts of the pupil. Along with techniques and the devices, our social science teachers can effectively use a wide range of audiovisual aids with an objective to make the entire teaching process interesting, effective, and meaningful. So these days, a wide range of audiovisual teaching aids are available in the market, and side by side, the teacher can prepare some improvised teaching aids so that he can make his teaching at least effective. As you know, in our societies, we find different kinds of teachers. You see, there are teachers who teach, who are loved, who are respected, who are remembered. So this is a most desired type of teacher, and not only that teachers, play a very important role in the society. And here he is saying that great generals win campaign, but it is the unknown soldiers who wins the war. It is the teacher who serve the society. It is the teacher, who affect the eternity of the students. So taking into consideration all these things, we have to create a good thesis so that those good theses can help students at their base level to build better society. And here is another saying that famous educators plan new system of pedagogy, but it is the unknown teachers who really guide, help, and teach teachers, these students. So let us create a better nation through education. So let me say so, and with this, let me say thank you very much for attending to this lesson.